Welcome to our Brothers in Conversation podcast, powered by Jesse and Shondell. Shondell, you are from?
Bed-Stuy, do-or-die, Brooklyn. That little town.
That's a little town. That's nothing like Hawthorne, Nevada. Population 5,000 cats and dogs. Let's start this out with welcome to our Brothers in Conversation podcast. It is powered by Jesse and Shondell Newsom it is. And this particular episode is why relationships matter. Okay, some people call them relationships. Shondell has coined the phrase REALationships.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and so this is September 10th, 2020, and this is episode number 33. Our super exciting special guest is Lisa Olshafer. Lisa, round of applause, Shondell, for Lisa Olshafer, please.
Yes,
in fact,
Lisa's in the house.
We'll raise the roof for you. Yeah. And so Lisa, an empowerment coach, right? Lisa, you do so much. It's hard to give you one title, but I'll do my best. You're an empowerment coach. You're an author. You're a speaker. You're a videographer. You're a graphic artist. I mean, wait a minute. Let me ask you. Is there something you don't do?
I'm sure plenty. Plenty, but it always tends to be in the coaching and creative area.
Okay, so. Fair enough. So you've had your footprint in that zone for how long?
Well, I've been a coach since 2006, so professionally.
Okay.
Professionally, many years before that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then in creative, I've been, decades. So, yeah.
So I've got to tell you, Shondell, Lisa Farrell and I have had the pleasure of working with Lisa Olshafer, and I'm telling you, nobody works harder. Nobody works with more precision. Nobody cares more about getting it right. Not for Lisa, but for the viewer or the perspective or whoever's going to take in whatever that piece is, whether it's a video or a speech or a graphic display. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, she's all in, and it does not get any better than Lisa Olshafer. Sorry.
You know what? You don't have to pump me up about her. I met her, Jeff. You don't have to hype her up for me. Now you can do that for our audience, but you don't have to hype her up for me.
Well, see what Lisa Olshafer doesn't know is Shondell Newsom. He knows everything. So I already know that about you. I was doing that for the other people.
Yeah, she's amazing. Lisa, one thing we connected on is, I started off as a young graphic designer, and, every time that we have a conversation with Lisa and we're talking about the art and we're talking about the real industry, what I noticed is she is very appreciative of the art of communication and really I don't even want to classify her as a graphic designer because everybody today claims they're a graphic designer because they have Canva art or something.
Oh yeah.
We have to find a different name, a different class.
Well, I've had people say the same thing about me as a coach.
Yes. Yeah. Well, same thing. That's right.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I get that feedback a lot in all the areas that I work in. So I guess it's just I'm unique.
It's uniquely you. It's your DNA. It's what makes you great.
There's no doubt about it, Shondell. It is what makes her great. Lisa Farrell connected with Lisa Olshafer when Lisa was at a point in her path. Well, all of us, whether it's a career or vocation or a job or whatever, oftentimes we can go exhausted with the challenges of keeping things up to par and so forth. And Lisa was at a point where she was really at a point where she needed to take a break. And she connected with Lisa Farrell and talked to her about what she was up to. And my Lisa mentioned to Lisa Olshafer that, we were looking to, create our own digital product. And Lisa said she was interested, and she came on board. And the Breakthrough Success Plan, I can tell you, it took, inside of 1 year, it was just about 2,700 hours that the three of us put into writing, scripting, shooting, editing, and all this kind of stuff. And there's no way Lisa Farrell and I could have created a product of this quality without Lisa Olshafer. The Breakthrough Success Plan is out there now. As you know, the Urban Chamber has used it, and we've got some Fortune 100 companies on the strip that are about ready to sample the Breakthrough Success Plan as well, or at least we're close to pulling the trigger on that. And we would not have had it without you, Lisa. You did just a great job with that, and
Well, thank you. Thank
So-
you. Well, we wouldn't, when it took all three, it was a great team.
Yeah, so let's talk about relationships or relationships. What's the difference, Shondell, between a relationship that most people know when they hear that word and a real relationships? What is the difference in your mind?
I think that people have a relationship when they go to a networking event and they get a business card and they reach out to people once in a while. They feel like they have a relationship. What a real relationship is a person that knows you inside out. They really understand you. It's like when we first talked, Jess, and when I brought you in to help the Urban Chamber years ago. When I said the Urban Chamber has to find an identity and understand how they make their members feel, right?
Right.
You and I and Lisa established a relationship over a period of time where I don't even have to ask you what you do. I know exactly what you do. I understand what you can do, and then ultimately bring you in and say, hey, how about we bring the Breakthrough Success Plan to the Urban Chamber, right? Because I understand that already. I understand you. I know your DNA. I know what you do and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So it really boils down to, like, even the word friendship. People are taking the word friendship and just, hey, you friended me on Facebook, so now you're my friend.
Right.
Well, no, you have to be closer than that, and we have to know each other and understand each other to go to a different level. So a real relationship is on a whole different level than the typical relationship.
I like that. That's true. Lisa Schaefer, why don't you weigh in on that, or either take us to another area based on relationships versus relationships?
Yeah, I just, I work with a lot of couples in coaching and obviously single people as well, but recently divorced, also all different stages of relationship, including the roles of the relationships that they play. So one of the things that a lot of people get caught up in is just taking for granted the relationships they have in their life and start to just mainly focus on, what's not right in the relationship, what bugs them about the relationship, and all these types of things. And so one of the things that I really help people to understand is that the relationships that are closest to you, that are significant to you, are really reflections of the relationship you have with yourself. And when you really understand that, you start to shift the way you do relationship. Because, I'll use an extreme example, but, abusive relationships are so prevalent, whether it's emotional, physical, or whatnot in our world today. And one of the things that I really help people to understand, because people I shouldn't say end up feeling like the victim in their life in a relationship. So when you can understand that if you are victimizing yourself, if you're hard on yourself, if you're really, if you treat yourself poorly, the chances of you having someone significant in your life treating you poorly or even abusing you is going to be much greater. So it's all about the relationship you have with yourself is going to dictate the kind of relationships you have with others.
That's huge. That's really huge. And people don't realize that. There's something else you said about the relationships that we're very familiar with, like a husband, a wife, a parent, a child, a best friend. Oftentimes, when it comes to those relationships, there's something that I just really came with this maybe about 4 weeks ago. Relationship comfort. Relationship comfort to me is when you're extremely close with someone that we oftentimes take for granted our basic responsibilities of kindness, thank yous, appreciations, pop-bys, attaboys, check-ins, because we know those relationships are going to be there. And so we're comfortable in the relationship. And I think that those times when we're not as comfortable or even uncomfortable, we're more on our P's and Q's. We're more aware of the basics of what turns something into as Shondell says, relationship. We have to be very mindful to not fall into, I think there's a plus and minus on relationship comfort. The plus is it's comfortable. That's good. That feels good. The minus side of that is it's comfortable and you begin to be complacent not on purpose, and we don't even realize we're doing it. I call that relationship comfort. Shondell, weigh in first. What your thought? Just hearing that, what are your thoughts about that?
That's a great thought, because when you think about comfort, it is all about, it goes back to, again, it's all about how you feel, right? And if you feel very comfortable. But I also agree with what Lisa said, is that it starts with you. It starts with how comfortable you are with yourself.
Right.
And I always say that in order for you to develop a great relationship or relationship, you have to understand you first, because you
I
have
agree.
to jive with other people. You have to make a connection with like-minded people, and people who have the same, can give you that synergy. Because sometimes people don't know themselves, and they're getting involved with people who don't jive with them.
I love that, Shondell. Lisa Olshafer, I love what Shondell just said. I want to weigh in on that. I want you to tag team with us. What Shondell just said, those of you watching or listening to this, extremely powerful. It is extremely powerful. If we don't, Lisa and I like to say, if we don't get ourselves or don't know ourselves, it's hard to get or know others.
Yes.
So when you know your strengths, when you know your limitations, when you know your character, your basic character and how you show up, when you know that, and then you start to be open to learning other people. Whenever I'm communicating, when I communicate with Shondell, I communicate with Shondell very different than how I communicate with Lisa Olshafer.
Sure.
And Lisa, why do you think I communicate differently with you than I do with Shondell?
Because I'm from Brooklyn. You better know.
Fair enough.
We're different. We communicate differently. We are different people. So
right. So why would I communicate with Lisa Olshafer like I communicate with Shondell? Now, some of it may leak over, but for the most part, I communicate with you very differently because of your character, because of who you are and how you are. I want it to be a great rhythm. I want it to be what people forget in relationships, Shondell and Lisa. They forget, to me, the very best relationships are like the very best tennis matches. We're in the U.S. Open right now in New York. And those best tennis matches that people like to watch are the ones with the best volleys.
Yes.
When there's a great volley. If Serena Williams is killing that person on the other side and you know she's going to kill her, you're really not that interested in it. When you're not sure who's going to win and they're going tit for tat and tit for tat and the ball is volleying back and forth, it's far more intriguing. And that's the same thing with communication. That's why I like to keep tossing the ball back and forth to both Lisa and Shondell, because people listening, they can see and feel, if they can catch a groove on this rhythm and this volley, that's the kind of communication we want to bring to our relationships. Lisa Olshafer, please weigh in on that whole volley concept.
Well, absolutely. It's some people are more introverted. Some people are more extroverted. So, you got that going on as well. But I think where a lot of people get held up in relationships is fear of being judged for saying what they're going to say. So many people are stifled in their voice, and so which hinders the relationship. And one of the reasons that they don't volley, they either over talk or withhold, and so therefore it creates a imbalanced relationship. Like you said, the volley isn't there.
No,
it's exciting and engaging,
right,
in communication. But one of the things that keeps people from really communicating effectively is feeling vulnerable. And that vulnerability kicks them, it's like they avoid it at all costs. And yet that's where the depth of relationships comes from.
Well said.
Right? Because if you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, you live more on the surface of relationships, which means you have surfacey relationships. Yes. Even it could be your spouse. So it's about going deeper into the relationship, and you will not go deeper without vulnerability.
Well said.
Vulnerability, or it's not going to happen.
I agree with you, Lisa and Shondell. I agree with Lisa. I believe it's vulnerability mixed with authenticity.
Yes.
Just be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, and don't try to make everybody like you. You know what? Yep. Everybody's not going to like you. Even if you're the most beautiful, brilliant person in the world, some people are not going to like you because you are beautiful and brilliant.
Right.
So I think that authenticity and that vulnerability, the combination of those two things exude, and I think that becomes very attractive. People are attracted to people that are real, like Shondell says.
Yes, and authenticity is the perfect word. and vulnerability, right? The challenge for a lot of us, and I'll say males, right? Males have a hard time with vulnerability. They feel like, because we were always taught that if you make yourself vulnerable, you can be attacked, right? I got over that a long time ago. I really understood that in order for me to have a great relationship going on 25 years of marriage with Arlene, is I have to make myself vulnerable. I have to have a communication level that we can be real with each other. We can always be real with each other, no matter what the thought is. And in fact, when we first started dating, we were so real, we could have open conversations about our exes, which is taboo for most people.
That's well said.
Because then they start making comparisons and all that. So we had open conversations, and we said, this is the way we want our relationship to be.
Nice.
If we go any further, it needs to be real like this. It has to be a communication where we're open, we're honest, and don't leave anything out.
I think that's really good. I love that. Does that resonate with you as well, Lisa?
Absolutely. There's so much more meaning in life when you go deeper in life, and so many people are living so fast and automatic, and they don't really experience the deeper meaning and the depth, and that's what makes life so engaging and exciting and magical and purposeful and all that. So, and it's the relationships really what it comes down to, which makes it all that.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
What both you and Shondell are saying.
Yeah.
Lisa and I have gained the right through a dear client by the name of Mike French out of Vancouver, Canada. Tomorrow, we will be giving our very first virtual, global, international virtual workshop on BIPOC. The whole Black Lives Matters and Black Indigenous people of color. It's the very first time I've ever spoken. I've never, ever taken the stand from the position of color. I've always stayed away from that. I've been asked to do this, and the one thing that I'm going to use to pull those people in is not going to be the color of my skin, although they'll see that because it'll be predominantly white audience in Vancouver, Canada. And we're going to do a 1-hour virtual workshop and teach them how to talk to people of color. Okay. And so the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my realness, my authenticity, and my vulnerability. Everything. If they don't get it after that, I'm off the hook.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What do you think of that one, Shondell?
I love it. And, I've been doing some of those seminars, and I just did one Friday. And one thing that I told people is, relationship goes back to understanding the person, right? And people can't say they don't see color because they see you. You
Of course.
I'm a dark-skinned guy and I'm wearing an orange shirt. They know who that guy is. Right? So I think what you're going to do is open their mind up to what goes beyond the color.
Exactly.
Right? Because that I remember telling the story about when I worked at station casinos and I was in the boardroom, and one of the guys who had been there for 20 some odd years said, "Oh, it must be cool that you guys have affirmative action." You know how that goes, Jess, in the casino industry.
I do.
And so it was interesting because my general manager and president just stood right up and he said, "No, he's not here for that. He's here because he adds the military background, the top secret clearance, and the understanding of how to keep secrets, and the innovation because he worked on stealth and drone technology. So we're going some places in gaming that no one has gone before." And I think that's what you're going to point out is the fact that when you look beyond the color, there's so much more that we offer and bring to the table. So that's real. That's the real. The color is just like a logo, right? And Lisa can tell you this: a logo is just an identifier. The logo does nothing. It's what's behind the logo that makes the brand great. Look at that.
What's funny, Shondell, is when I first met you, you wouldn't think we would have a lot in common.
Right.
A whole lot in common.
We had a whole lot in common. It was almost amazingly how much we had in common, our interests and kind of our backgrounds and things like that, and periods of life, where we shared commonalities. So I was, that's what I connected into. So it's just kind of funny that, you never know.
And Lisa, you're spot on. You never know. And check this out. If you and Shondell were not able to have a conversation that had a volley concept and tied into it, you would have never known how much the two of you have in common, because you would have been turned off by him, or he would have been turned off by you, or both of you would have been turned off and never tapped into what was real and that was very consistent in both of your upcomings.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I want to ask Lisa a question. I got a question for you, Lisa, because this is interesting to me. Some people say opposites attract, right?
Uh-huh.
What makes opposites attract, and is that a real concept in your opinion?
I'm not sure about opposites attract. I think it's more complements attract. That's how I would put it, because sometimes opposites, it's just too much distance sometimes. I mean, you can't say, there's no there's a lot of gray area.
One size fits
there,
all, yeah.
But what I found is that sometimes it's the opposites can be intriguing, but not necessarily lasting.
I like what Lisa said, Shondell. I like compliments attract, and I'm going to use the photo in the background. You see beautiful Lisa Olshafer on my left, and beautiful Lisa Farrell on my right, and also beautiful Alex Brady in the middle. And then on the outside, you see Lisa's role model. Her name is Julie Neal, and you see my role model for hospitality, which is Larry Lewin. And when you look at these consortiums of people, compliments attract. I like that better because Larry Lewin grew up with the German Jew influence. His father has the numbers on his wrist and mother from the Holocaust. Okay? That's how he grew up. And his father rose to the top of Hilton. He was close friends with Baron Hilton. Well, he was raised in that environment, and I was raised in hospitality underneath Larry. Well, we're not the same people. To Lisa Olshafer's point, what we do is our complementary presence and power and energy is attractive to one another, even though we're not the same people. So I like that. And I've known him since I was 16. I just turned the age of 60. And he and I have been tight and growing tighter ever since. Lisa and I are about ready to take a player development trip out to Tahoe tomorrow to spend with him, and he's going to be exposing us to other people that we can also serve. He invited us. Sure. And so you just looking at that picture, I see 50 plus years of real relationships based on authenticity,
yes,
based on vulnerability, and based on compliments. There's something about us that he loves.
Yes.
And there's something about him that we love.
And I'll tell you, you said something else that's really key. And this is what I try to tell a lot of small business owners, because they say, a lot of people don't think I work, Jess. I mean, it's like, you don't work. You don't seem to really put a lot of work into getting business. And I tell them, well, it's because I really don't work at getting business. I work at building relationships.
Nice.
Similar to what you said, is when you built that relationship and you know intimate details about your friend. He's your friend now. And it takes you to a different space. I say this all the time, and anybody who's listening on Zoom or watching us on Facebook Live, understand that relationships can lead to revenue, but revenue will not lead to relationships.
Wow, that's powerful. Shondell, let me weigh in with you. Check this out, Lisa. What Shondell's saying, I do this perpetual monthly study, and all the business that we currently have in terms of the coaching clients and the speaking engagements and our virtual product that you and I and Lisa share. Where that comes from is Shondell's spot on. 26% of all the business we have comes from face-to-face connections. We're not selling. We're not campaigning. We're just in front of people having a conversation. 26%. 50% comes from referrals. Referrals come from relationships, right? How much do you, Lisa and I have spent tens of thousands of dollars over the last 5 years in digital marketing, okay? How much percentage of our current business on a month-to-month basis, Lisa Olshafer, do you think is representative in terms of digital? It's zero. Zero. Now, I'm not saying digital's bad. We would love to figure out how to get 10, 15, 20% of our business from digital because then it's working when you're not. But it is very, very difficult, as you well know.
Yes.
But relationships, they're only difficult if you make them difficult. If you do the things that we're talking about on this program, then that becomes something powerful. What do you think about hearing those numbers, Lisa?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's, even I don't do networking throughout the city so much anymore, but boy, I did for a while. And so many people, I know more people now than I've ever known in my life versus, Vegas too. But it was a really great experience because I had never networked before, ever. And it was probably 2010, end of 2010, 2011 when I started. And it was just, you have a different, you can tell who are there with authenticity and to build relationships, and those who are there just to give you their card, right? And so it's very off-putting if you feel that, right? That they're just trying to just make sure that card gets in the hand,
right,
which is just going to end up in the trash,
right?
And instead of really just kind of build in the relationships, and it takes a good solid year to really instill those relationships that you do through business networking and so forth, let alone personal relationships. But most people are like, well, gosh, I went to this network meeting, I didn't get any business.
Right.
Well, you've been to one networking meeting. Yeah, you're lucky whatever. But so but it did take some time to really build those relationships.
Those are actually,
they started to really start to come back, if you will.
and those are good points, Lisa. Lisa Farrell and I don't even call it. I mean, I know it's legitimate what you're saying, and people get what you're saying. We many years ago we stopped calling it network marketing. We don't even do that.
No, it's not network marketing. It's networking.
Or networking. We don't even network.
Networking.
We don't call it. We don't do networking. We do what we call relationship marketing. We seek to build relationships, like you're saying. Is it networking? Yes, but we don't even call it that. We seek to whatever that those people will allow in terms of building quality relationships with whatever they will allow. If they don't allow it, it's only going to go so far.
Yeah.
But we even stopped calling it networking. We call it relationship marketing as a concept to continue to focus on. It's the relationship that we're looking to build, not so much the network.
No, and I go in there totally like that. In fact, Lisa, I will tell you that I don't give out cards, right? And I'll have cards on hand if someone asks. Mm-hmm. But my first thing is not to hand somebody a card.
Right.
Typically, when I'm at a networking event, I have the same concept that you do, Jess. In fact, my expectations are not to walk in and make a pitch or a sale. Mm-hmm. It's not even to really... I have to qualify the relationship first. So I don't know if that person is a potential client. I don't know if that person is a resource. I don't know if that person is an influencer that will bring me clients. I don't know what role that person will play until I actually have a dialogue with them and we do that volley thing that you're talking about. I have no clue what that person can do. That's why I don't give them a card or ask for a card, because I don't know yet.
Right, Shonda, I believe you go in there, like you say, not to try to get business or turn them into this. I think you go in there to make a connection or make connections. What connections can you make, right?
And it's so much more powerful and enjoyable when you do it that way.
Yes. Absolutely. And rewarding.
Instead of, it's just, it's so much better that way. And I think a lot of what, we're talking about when it comes to business is letting go of the attachment, right? Yeah. Letting go of the attachment, finding the connection without the attachment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Because when people get attached to the outcome, if I go here, I'm going to get business or whatever their thoughts are, you lose the connection with people. And yet when you let go of the attachment of the outcome, you really have the true, real connection with people.
Shondell and the people watching or listening to this, if you guys haven't written down one thing, write down what Lisa Olshafer just said, because it's true 100% of the time. I'm going to give you one snippet of a case study that backs up what Lisa's saying. Earlier in this year, Lisa Farrell and I went to a birthday party for a friend that we don't get to spend much time with him now, but I spent much time with him maybe 12, 15 years ago. I was exhausted from a full day's work, and I wanted to go, but I didn't really have the energy. But I went anyway. I found a way to get my energy levels up, and so that Lisa was already decent in a good space. And so we do our thing, and there are about 14 people there. We come home. About a month ago, I get this letter from the son-in-law, from the person we went to the birthday for, says, I loved your energy. I love how you showed up. I'm thinking about some certain things in my life, and I would like to know if you would take on being a coach for me and a coach for my wife. I wasn't trying to get a client. I was just connecting and building real relationships. And I was blown away that from that gathering, he saw me as someone that could support him. I wasn't there for that. I was exhausted with doing that all day. Tell me what you think about that, at least as an example to your point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, watch pot never boils, right? But when you're just being yourself, and it's the law of attraction. You just attract people to you that are, you're going to have a connection with in one way or another, whether it's personal or professional.
Well said. Well said.
I tell you about relationships. They last a lot longer. It's just like Lisa stated, is that when you go in with these preconceived thoughts,
right?
And yes, you know what? You go further back to the times when you were dating, and you go out to a nightclub or you go to anywhere, and the guys that used to get the most disappointed were the ones that went in and thought they were all that. And they thought, you know what, I'm just gonna throw this line on this girl, and I'm gonna walk out, man, and they got so disappointed. It was actually the guy that sat back and listened and was really authentic and listening to the women that they were intrigued with. They were intrigued with the guy who was not hitting on them 24, the whole time.
Right. Right.
It was if you sat back and you just listened, or you had a conversation with no advancement at all, that was probably the person, and Lisa can attest to this, but I bet you that's the person that is more intriguing to you,
more attractive,
the person that's coming on to you.
But they also feel safe.
Yes, they feel, because it's more real. It's more real.
And so that's, I think, huge too. And when people feel they're being manipulated, they don't feel safe.
That's right.
Safety is a big issue for most people, especially these days. And so when you can bring a calm or that comfort level, that energy to someone, that people will come to you because they feel comfortable with you, they feel safe with you, which will allow them to be more vulnerable and authentic.
Well said. Well said. And you both are spot on. And Shondell, that does not just limit itself to possible intimate relationships or dating or that. That's a universal concept. Yes, my biggest failure as a professional I was doing exactly what you just said. Oh boy, we landed the closing keynote speaker for the largest school district in America, 1.4 million in the district in Houston. Oh, we're going big time. This is it. We're there now. Yeah, the powers to be let me know that I do not get to choose it. 21 things went wrong. I'm not kidding you. Ask Lisa. 21 things went wrong from the time that we got on property till we left. Even one guy coming up, he was the speaker before me. Oh, Mr. Director, can I go just a little bit longer? I'm almost done. I wanted to punch him in the face. You're a professional speaker and on time. Yeah. They've been in a 3-day summit. If you go over, that messes up my game, right? Yeah. Right? So he went 40 minutes over. I'm the next speaker. How do I cut 40 minutes of intel that I designed for my part? 21 things went wrong. And you know what I learned from that, Shondell? Mr. Smarty Pants, Shondell. You don't choose it. It chooses you.
That's right.
You show up to bring them your best, not, this is it. We're going big time now. Oh, we're going to be Tony Robbins. No. That's not how it works. I did professionally what a lot of guys do personally. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a fact. And you go in and again it goes back to what Lisa was saying is you go in with this free spirit of not expecting certain things,
Right.
and it really works better. It always works best for me. It's like read the room, enjoy the room, have fun, and people call it networking. I do the same thing. I say it's like me going in as a relationship builder. You've seen me walk into a room. I'm just walking in carefree, being Shondell.
Right.
Because I think you try to be the salesman or you try to be somebody else, and I remember a client asked me this question, Jess. It's so funny. It was about the whole real estate thing.
Right.
And one person was like, I never put my picture on my cards or on anything because I don't want people to prejudge me based on what I look like. And I said, well, let me tell you something. It's really a preference if you want to put your pictures on a card or whatever on a business card. But I'll tell you this: if you are worried about them seeing your picture before they get to see you, just imagine what's going to happen, the shock they're going to have when they do see you, right? So you come up front, be up front with them, be straightforward with them. If that's who you are, that's who you are. And I think people, especially with social media, try to be somebody they're not. It's like those online dating things. Hey, remember the guy was like, hey, I'm a skier and I'm this and I'm that. And, it's like, really? That's not even what you do. You're not even. So try to be yourself. Like in relationships, it's about being authentic.
Well
It is
said.
about being vulnerable. It is about giving people, business or personal, giving people exactly who you are and let them make a decision.
And
Don't make
respect it. Respect if they don't choose what you were expecting or wanting. If the
Yes.
relationship isn't meant to be for you or them or both, that's okay too.
And I think another thing, if I might add something too, is that integrity is one of the core foundations of having a real relationship, right? The integrity, following through what you say you're going to do, being honest, all those things, because it's the support, like the integrity of anything. Integrity of a bridge keeps it strong and up. It doesn't break down. Well, the same thing with our emotional integrity is you can't build anything strong without it.
Yes.
That
I love that you say that, Lisa, because there are times, and we'll let people in our bat cave now, Jess. There are times when we have conversations, me, you, Lisa O'Shafer, Lisa Farrell, and Tierra. And when we have those kind of brainstorming sessions, there are things that we don't like to hear, right? But the fact that we're being honest with each other, I think builds our relationship.
oh, completely.
If we were soft shoeing it, I'm like, well, Jess, you're like, hey, Shondell, how'd I do? You did great, Jess. I really, really love it. But if I'm not being honest with you, and one of my best friends told me this, the one thing I can count on you is to be honest with me. I can't stand when people are not with their integrity. They're not giving me all of it. They're like soft shoeing it. Give it to me.
And you can feel it. You can feel it.
I
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
I need great feedback.
Yeah,
right?
you can feel it when they're not doing that. So that's a good point. So let's Shondell just give us an amazing point. Lisa, let's you give me just a thought or point you'd like to share with the people listening or watching this, and I'll do the same. Then we'll bring it to a close. But just in terms of this relationships conversation on this episode, what other thoughts would you share? Like what Shondell just shared, something amazing for people to think about and consider as they're building their relationships. What else might you have for them? And I'll share, and then we'll bring it to a close.
Yeah. Know yourself. Absolutely know yourself. If you don't understand yourself, that process of, we are so complex beings, and we have so many things going on within us, and much of which we're not aware of, the whole subconscious. And so if you really want to attain your dreams and have these relationships, whether it's, your children or your parents or your spouse or your, family, friends, and so forth, if you don't really know yourself, you are never going to be a powerful person, let alone have powerful relationships. So it's a process. It's an ongoing process. There's no end to, self-discovery and learning about yourself. But ultimately, it's if you aren't already on that track, find that track, find that pathway, and start digging in, because the resources are endless, including, obviously coaches like you and I, but there's endless resources to begin, and then stay on the path of going deeper and deeper and deeper with the understanding of yourself, and you will see organically the relationships go deeper within your life.
I love that.
That's the reflection.
I love that. And just to put a stamp on what you said, I agree 100%. I know Shondell does as well, because he's doing the same thing. Lisa and I like to name things. What you just said, what we named that is Canee, Canee. We practice constant and never-ending evolution. We're looking to constantly evolve, relearning ourselves and knowing ourselves and measuring and checking and updating and upgrading. So that's brilliant what you said, both you and Shonda both. And so my close actually ties in what both of you were saying is many people find themselves falling into the trap of how we were raised. We were all raised to go to school, get good grades so you can get a good job, retire, and die. Okay? So many of us were stuck in that IQ perspective of the world. But you know what? Lisa and I, we like to put in a few other Qs. Number one, EQ. Learn how to grow your emotional intelligence, EQ. Not just IQ. Learn how to grow your SQ, social intelligence. How to communicate with others in different groups and individuals and so forth. And learn how to grow what we call PQ, practical intelligence. Practical intelligence is synonymous with common sense, which is not so common. Okay, so we like to practice PQ and SQ along with EQ, not just living in IQ. I don't care how smart you think I am or not. I do care if you understand and know or feel that we are connecting, like Shondell said. So to me, when you practice the additional Qs versus the one that we were taught for so many years, I think you grow your ability to build sustainable relationships.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I think. So let me ask you, so as we close, let's do a quick takeaway game. For you, Shondell, what's your best takeaway from the consortium of the three of us teaming up? This is a great consortium. By the way, this is not a one and done. We'll have to do this again on another subject. Sure. But what did you take away from today's session, or hope that others take away from the session?
Well, first, I take away the fact that Lisa O'Shafer is the bomb. Start with that first. I think what I take away is, again, authenticity, integrity, words that we sometimes are thrown out there that are deemed to be meaningless have a lot of meaning to other people. So it's real important that you stay within that vein and make sure that you are authentic and that you show deeply that you care. And one thing I'll take away from what Lisa said today is it's deeper. It's much deeper when you talk about relationships. It's going deep.
Nice. Very nice. I like that. That's very good. What about you, Lisa O'Shafer? What's your takeaway for yourself or for others?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all been great. It's all been great to be here as well. But like you said, Shondell, people can throw the words around, but it's taking those words to heart. And, authenticity and integrity are two of my core values. And I think if you live more by the values in which you want your relationships founded in, those will bring those to an embodiment instead of just a sign on a wall, kind of a thing. I mean, so many people, we hear these sayings on Facebook and so forth. You can't love someone else till you love yourself, and they just kind of go in one ear and out the other. And it's like really understanding there's so much truth that has been passed here today, and so much truth has passing from generation to generation. But if it's not really embraced and embodied, it just ends up being words. Yeah.
I think that's 100% true, what you both are saying. And my share takeaway is that I'm glad that Lisa Farrell put this consolidation of the three of us together, knowing that there was a power in that consortium of the three of us, and it is. And my takeaway is I trust that those people watching, listening to this broadcast will share this with others that did not get a chance to see this, and go back and watch it again yourself and take something out of this, snatch some nuggets out of this display of great organic authentic conversation, and find a way to level up your life regardless of where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Use this as a tool to, which is why the three of us get together and invest our time, because we want to help others. And we may, who knows, we may help someone all the way across the water in Paris or Egypt or Israel or Newfoundland that we don't even know because someone shared it, you know, somewhere outside the boundaries of things that we don't know that we're reaching. So that would be, to me, the best takeaway is for people to actually share this with others, to say, hey, it's 45 minutes and it's powerful. So I want to thank both you professionals, because I know that you both have a lot in the queue, and I appreciate you taking the time to connect on Brothers in Conversations and with the subject in this episode of number 33 of being REALationships. You guys are brilliant, and this must be continued. We must do this again.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day, team.
All right.
Bye now.